Awesome.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm opening the files and then just to go through it once.
Okay. Let's see what else is on the list. So yes, we have the updated basically floor plans and elevations. So if everyone could like go into Miro and just kind of take a quick look through that, make sure it has kind of the information you're going to be looking for, and if there's any info missing, what that is, so we can add those to the drawings. Yeah, basically we've got an elevation plus each of the floors on an 11-foot grid.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Hayden.
And then, yeah, so here are the plans. So I think they are pretty like self-explanatory. Like you can read through the plans. So so we are trying to mostly follow like the basic grid of like 11 foot, if I'm not mistaken, and then yeah, it goes all the way up, and then so for now, so this should be the front elevation, which one thing that pops up is like this facing, which is like the west facing side, is having like the most window openings for now, which are like these, the larger ones, and then the smaller ones in the units. So while this one is the back side, and then this one, the smaller ones, are the rear sides, like the left and right side. So
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So just so I could see, and maybe just remind me where we were talking about having the technical sort of equipment.
For now, we haven't put like a really specific location for those stuff. So it really depends on like the space that is required, and then see where it fits. So for example, like for the third floor here, there are actually a certain space of like roof that has no like windows or anything. So basically we could put those like utility stuff up there, which is not easily like exposed to the residents and so on. And like the roof floor is like totally flat and like unoccupied. So it really depends on like let's say the area of solar panels that we have to put on and stuff. So we need those figures to make things out. And
is there any way, are those all the drawings that are on the Miro board, are those the ones that you're going through, or is there any way that we have access to just like the PDF?
Actually, I've uploaded those these PDF as well as the CAD files onto the Google Drive, so you'll be able to find it as well. So I think those in Google Drive would be the most updated ones. And yeah, so we are still like working in progress, so it would change continuously, but we will update you on that if there's like a really major changes for that.
Awesome.
Okay, and then we're also trying to make a list of like the panels that we would like to prefabricate, as well as like trying to minimize the variations of the panels and modules, so as to like lower the cost and stuff. So we are going to make like a schedule, like a list of these kind of drawings, which say like this panel would consist of like a large window in the middle, and then this panel would have like a door and then a smaller window next to it, with like a more detailed dimension. But of course you can measure it from the AutoCAD file. And then
Hayden, just to clarify, is this going to be like a panelized approach then, or are we still planning on doing like volumetric modules?
So I think actually we discussed a little bit with Alan, and then we think that maybe fragmentizing as like a way to do like panels would be a little bit better, but for this kind of like compositional like layout, we actually like inspired from like the containers that we previously mentioned, but we just break down the container into pieces just to build everything together. And then yeah, and Ellen, if I miss anything, you can pop up and explain more if I miss anything. And then I'm also we are also trying to make like a demarcation plan for each type of the panels that we are using. For this one, for example, the brown one indicates this one with like the large window, and then you can see like this. So this is the first floor plan, and then it actually repeats several times. So we are trying to like consolidate and see if there is like too much variations going on, and then yeah, and then I think since I think like we have to provide like information for the design partner, like to get familiar with our ideas and then our like design intent. So I think we will keep on working that in order to give sufficient information for them to work on and then give comments and so on. Yes.
Yeah,
Does
this looks
podium
like,
mean like a deck?
Sorry?
Does podium mean it's like a deck on the second floor plan?
You mean the depth for?
Yeah, on the PDFs in the Google Drive, it said podium. Yeah, right there, you can see it says podium.
Yes. So this is actually like the roof of the first floor, which is here, which covers the entire parking spaces. So basically up from above this podium, there should have no structures above. So
Is
you
that
can
like a deck or just a roof?
Yeah, it's like a
it's
deck.
accessible.
Deck.
You can treat it as a deck. Yeah, because like people have to walk outside and then go to their units and stuff. So when like for the word podium, we're trying to indicate that it's like an accessible roof, so to say. So you can see like there are glass balustrades surround enclosing the podium, and then as you can see from the elevation like this one, yeah, we're still working for that.
I
And
did have a
then
question. Sorry
yes.
to interrupt. So like what you have on Miro, they're all first floor plans. Do you like happen to have like the other floor plans on there?
You
I
mean
think the way the PDFs import, you just have to click on it, and then it pops up a little menu that shows the different pages of the PDF. I don't know. When I uploaded it, I thought it was on different pages, but if you just
thanks.
click through, you could see each of the pages.
Thanks. And also, I think for the roof slope, it's like 1/4 inch for every 12 inch.
okay.
It's actually not that steep. So it's
Okay.
almost like a flat roof.
Mhm.
The slope is really not as
Okay.
steep as what you have shown right there. So like 1/4 inch.
Okay.
curve.
Can you make a note on the mirror so that I can because I always mixed up with like the imperial scales and stuff. So
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It's like a proportion, and it's not. I think Kaiji, you're not saying that like a roof with tiles that is very steep. It's just a slab that has some
Mhm.
inclination just to drainage just to drain the water. something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very small.
The entire flue sloping, it could just be like it can kind of separate the roof into like several squares, and within each square there's like a slope, like a roof drain.
Yeah.
That's clear. It doesn't,
Okay.
you don't have to like slope the entire roof.
Yeah, normally in Brazil, we would have like 0.5%. So just keep the number in mind. At most 1%, but if this lab is really big, at the end, it's gonna be a high difference. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, sure. But I think we would address that, like, let's say for the roof details, and if we really need to go that far, but of course I will keep the figures in mind for that. And then
I'm sorry.
yes.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
So are the first floor, second floor, and the third floor living units are right on top of each other, or they're not?
There are several displacements. So for example, you can see like here are some like columns, or maybe here you can see several of them, because on top of it it actually shifts to another, like to the grid next to it. So I think you can read the grids and then to understand what really, like, where exactly they shift, because it's a really difficult to explain.
Okay, so yeah, because in the 3D the 3D drawings in the Miro board, they're right on top of each other. There are no displacement, so that's why I want to confirm about that.
In the Miro, it just shows the first floor plan over and over again. You have to kind of click on and download the PDFs, I think.
Oh.
Or maybe I can post the link of the let's see, post the link of the Google Drive with all the most updated files.
Yeah, I mean, in the perspective, in the perspective drawings, the second floor, third floor are perfectly in line with each other.
Oh, so I think one possibility, let's see. You mean, okay. I get what you mean, but I think we because we actually updated the design a little bit, so like the latest one reflects on the 2D drawings instead of the perspective. But
Okay.
if you really want to like get an update for the 3D model, of course we can do that.
No problem. No problem about that. But like while we're calculating, like while we're searching for the materials for the buildings, we find a problem with design with displacement. For example, if the second floor and the third floor are not on top of each other, so there are areas that you have to like insulate using the roof material on the second floor.
Yes.
But
so do you have like the thickness of like the insulation that is required, so that we can also address it? Because for our the drawings we've been working on currently, we assume all the floor plates, no matter it's exposed to the exterior or is indoor, are all 8 inches thick. But I'm not sure if that really fits the scenario. So yeah, we need the figures.
And what about the podium then? So we're not using insulating material on the podium, but on for example, when the podium and the roof is connected,
Yes.
like they have to be the same thickness. They had better be the same material, otherwise there'll be like a step over that. You get what I
Yeah,
mean?
sure. So maybe what if you like can provide a fact sheet or like a list of like the materials that you guys is there listed up here somewhere, because I haven't
Not
gone
yet.
through the mirror. Okay, yeah. So we need those information just to see if that collides with the design that we've been working on, and then so that we can make adjustments.
Okay, so the architecture team decide that whether a floor or whether a floor or a roof exposed to the outside or not exposed, they are, and the architecture team proposed that they're at the same thickness.
Okay.
Is that the case?
I think what we're talking about is there's one specific case on the second floor plan. If you could scroll up real quick.
Oh,
There's
yes.
could you scroll up on the PDF?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Okay.
Like
Okay.
the 3 blocks above the middle unit right there, horizontally above, that is like supposed to be an insulated roof for the first floor, right? Because there will be a building below that, right? Because if you look at, so, but you're also looking at deck, so you're gonna have a transition from an insulated roof for a building to a deck. So obviously those materials have to be the same. So it has to be waterproof, right?
So what if we assume like all these extent uses like the same materials for insulation, no matter it is indoor or outdoor? Can it be the case?
It doesn't worth it to have the insulated material for a podium, because a podium is just like a rain shelter, the kind of thing.
Yeah. The podium
Like the
doesn't
deck
have
doesn't.
to have insulation. So the separating line can be the column, you know, if you like draw a horizontal line across right there. So beyond the column point will have no insulation, and below that column there will be insulation because it's gonna be the first.
Well,
Yeah,
the
that's
transition
logical,
work.
but like my question was the roofing, like the material used on the outside, so the deck and for the roof have to be the same, right? But it has to be waterproof because it's going to be part of the roof. So that you're going to have to find a nice material that looks good, that can be both an actual roof to insulate and be waterproof, but it also has to be like walkable and look nice. And like, have you guys thought about that aspect of it? Because I feel like that would be a little difficult.
So what I thinking in my mind is like I'm not sure. Of course, there are finishes on like, let's say, the podium, which like for the places where people can walk. So I'm not sure if we can take like a tile, or let's say like a sort of finishes that does extra protection for that, for the exposed areas. So
You mean like insulation coatings? If yes, they exist. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wonder like if you can, like the engineering team could make like a simple demarcation plan, like the zones that you are concerning, whether there should be insulation or waterproofing or not, so that we can look through those areas and then give you guys the decision, because it's really hard to make all the decisions at once. So
no, I don't think the insulation is the problem. The insulation, you just insulate where there's like a building, but the transition between the building and the deck is gonna have to be with the same outer material that people are walking on, right?
Yes.
So have you guys thought about that, like aesthetically? Because it's obviously possible, but like you're gonna have to have a waterproof roof
Yeah, for
material
sure.
that's gonna be the whole deck, because you don't want to transition from like a waterproof deck for the 3 blocks below the column to some sort of like wooden deck. That would just look weird, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have to be uniform material. So like, have you thought about that?
So I don't think we have really dug deep into like the stage of like detailing and then figuring about like the finishing of the floors and walls and all sorts of these stuff. So it would be great if you can like give like the most basic like required thickness of like no matter insulation, waterproofing, or all sorts of materials that you have researched so far, and then we can further investigate on that. Is it okay? Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
but I mean, yeah, okay.
Is
Like,
it possible that we use different material from inside and outside? I mean,
I think that
or
would look
like
really easy.
interior and exterior.
Well, no, but like they both are exterior.
Oh, I see.
So you're gonna be stepping on a roof to like some different material. Like that would just look really weird, is what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, we probably need to do one kind of assembly that's continuous, right? And in that case,
But it has to be a roofing material.
Yeah.
So like that could get a little tricky because I mean,
But the insulation can be different.
well, the insulation's not a problem. The insulation is you just insulate below the column. That goes below the roof.
the deck just has to be deep enough to accommodate the insulation.
But I think we can, of course, we can like put some kind of like additional less finishes above all those things you have just mentioned on top. Let's say for the podium, the exposed roof, which is walkable. Yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking on that too.
Yeah. So I'm not sure like what's the common practice in America, but it would like, do you have any like materials or brands that you have in mind that comes along with the insulation, or like any kind of material systems that you have found along?
For the roof or like because
Anything, because actually I'm not really familiar with like the ecosystem here, so
yeah, I've done a little research on insulation, but I mean not too much. Like I think my main point is like if there wasn't a displacement between the floors, you could choose any material you wanted for the deck, right? Like because I don't know what the architecture team has in mind, but if you wanted to have a wooden deck, you could do that. If there was no displacement between the floors of the first and second floor, but because it's slightly offset, you're going to have to confine yourself to roofing material for your whole deck. I just didn't know if that's what you guys intended or not.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Can you find a drawing or just
I
make
think
a
I can
sketch?
annotate. Let me see if like this part here is like, I'm pretty sure the laundry room or something on the first floor, right? So everything, because this part is being exposed on the second floor, right? It's not enclosed, it's a deck. You're gonna have to use roofing material here. Does that make sense?
I think I get what you mean, but let's say I think let's say the underlaying materials on all these zones should be the same, or there would be like one or two extra layers of, let's say, a waterproofing sheet or anything. But I think like as long there is no difference for like the wood pavement or ceramic pavement or any kind of tiles, that I don't think that would be a huge concern. I think, of course, we can figure these out when we really try to.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but like, is this just like a roof that people sometimes walk on, or is it going to be like they might put tables and chairs out there or something? Like, maybe I'm confusing what's the purpose of the podium area.
Okay. We imagine the podium as, of course, like a circulation kind of area, but especially for this one, since it's pretty large, so we may designate these areas for, let's say, gathering space. So like tables and stuff would place on top. So I think that would relate to more structural problem rather than the insulation or like the layering on top of these floor plates.
I
Okay.
think it's more of a structural problem because it's a relatively big podium,
Yes.
and because it's a public area, so you have to design for a relatively large load.
Yeah.
So,
So
my
I think you
concern-
can review like the columns that we have spread on, and then to see if let's say the columns are fake enough, and then the walls. So for these thicker walls, we intended all these should be structural, which should share a thickness of 8 inches, but I don't know if that's common or not. So it's totally free that could change.
Yeah, but I think 2 by 6 should be good enough.
2 by
yeah,
6
you can leave it as 2 by 8 stud wall for now.
Okay. Okay, and then just for information that we also like the lighter lines inside here. These are like the dry walls or the non-structural partition walls, and then for here we just put like 6 inches thickness. So I'm not really sure about like the common practice of thickness of these walls. So please provide information for us like to update or to reconsider, or just
Yeah,
correct us if there is anything that is abnormal structurally or.
Yeah, I think 2 by 6 the exterior walls, they're typically 2 by 6. So that is just the thickness of the studs, the depth of the studs. So I don't know if your 2 by 8 includes your 8 inches thickness, if it includes like the drywall, the plywood and everything, or is it just the stud depth?
So
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
I also have a couple of questions for later.
Yes, go on.
I thought somebody would say something. Okay, for the roof thing, what is it called again?
Podium.
The podium. Okay, it's probably gonna be a slab, either of concrete or with steel beams underneath and something. But at the end, you will have some sort of insulation coating, which is fine. So people can step on, you can put stuff there. It would be insulated for rain. So it's not complicated. If it's concrete, I would say at least 10 centimeters. Sorry, I work with I'm more accustomed with the international system. So
Divided by 2.5.
yeah. So
Or
at
sorry,
least
multiplied by 2.5.
at least a 10 centimeter thickness slab. For the walls, as you were mentioning, that there will be structural walls, so they're not gonna be of at least the envelope. When I mean envelope, are the external walls. They will not be from drywall, right? So there will be some sort of structural masonry probably concrete blocks.
I think plywood.
This
Usually,
is the second floor.
we use plywood for lateral resisting.
So it would be a wood frame.
Wood framing, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we won't go to steel or concrete. if
Because
it's
this is the
not
second
necessary.
floor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the more wood we can use, the better, just due to the carbon impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So it's gonna be wood frame. Okay. And I just have one concern that I usually civil engineers have. What's the material for the stairs? Also wood?
We frame it out of wood, or I think it's a relatively small stairs. Steel is plausible too. It's easier if you like just
really,
hire
we don't
contractor.
have like preference for the material of the stairs, so it really like the concern, like the call from structure.
Okay. Just because like normally the stairs, they have a more stiff structure. So the walls around the stairs, normally they are structural walls as well, because you have all sorts of forces going on and torsion and etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. Make sure to put like structural walls around the stairs as well.
So for here, like from first floor going up, we didn't put walls for here just to make it more open. But
Okay, if you
I
don't
think
just
for here we treat it more as like a standalone object here. But yeah, it really depends on like if like the structure, like the stability is really the concern. Of course, we can change it. But
yeah. It doesn't have to be like that, like a structural box, but if you're doing something different, just make sure it can stand itself. It is supported by something. Actually, there are standards for these. So
yeah. And then so for now, I think like the engineering team can like of course read through the plans and then just provide us any information you have got so far, in no matter the materials you found, the thickness that's required for like doing certain standard of performances, as well as if you find the grid, let's say the spacing between the columns are too far apart, just tell us, and then mark these up on these PDFs, and then we can acknowledge it and then do changes accordingly. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Do you have the PDF in the drive?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are CAD files and PDFs.
And PDFs. Okay, cool. Because last time I saw there's only a CAD file.
Yeah.
So these columns will be wood as well? Wood columns?
That would be ideal, right?
I think so, because we are going to stick with like wood construction for most part of this building. Yes. And by the way, since we have laid out like the rough locations of the like water basins, shower places, and then and all these like the MBAC stuff. So maybe engineering team can also look through like if the routings of the pipe tumbling or the water drainage is feasible, or like any problem that you found.
Yeah, we'll look into that for sure. I'm also planning on using the drawings too. Will be huge for some of the other stuff that Jared and I were going to talk about. But so these are sweet.
Also
Okay.
for these drawings, thank you for putting them all together and all the work that y'all been doing. For the drawings, I think what would be helpful for engineering team B when we're looking at, you know, the lighting requirements for the rooms. If we can, if we can have like the labels for like pretty much every room, just to make sure we know what the purpose of it is. Like, for example, like what's on the screen right here on like the top left area, kind of over here. It's kind of like, I'm not too sure if that's like a hallway or something, or
Okay.
storage.
Yeah, sure. I think we intend we place these as like the bedrooms. So basically, like the rooms without specific text or like logos or like any kind of figures, that should be bedrooms.
Okay, so we can treat those as bedrooms. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Thank you.
My one kind of worry, with just looking at the general layout
Mhm.
is, you generally want to have, I would say like your technical equipment, like the stuff that goes into, powering the place, your water heater, some sort of ventilation components, are all pretty heavy equipment and things that should be kept at the ground floor. And just, I've been kind of just like going back and forth through the plans, and I fear that stuff is not going to be somewhere in like a central location that's on the ground floor. Is there some sort of way that we can consider like repurposing like the laundry and storage, or reorienting it so that we can put some of these components here? Or are we thinking about putting those on like the side of the house? Just because like it normally doesn't make too much sense to put that big equipment anywhere else but the first floor.
Yeah. I think I get it. So basically I think like from the plans, of course, these spaces are like available if you really need it. And of course we can reconfigure the partitions for these two. So yeah, since the lobby is kind of empty and we didn't have like much intent for these spaces, so yeah, we just need like the minimum areas for
Right,
the,
yeah, and with the drawings, like that's going to be huge. Me and Jared will definitely like, I'll get some better ideas of like actual sizing of these, of some of these equipment things, and maybe probably by like next week or something. But
okay, sure. Or maybe you can provide, let's say, two options. The first one, just give us like the minimal dimensions of like the equipments and the room that you may need, and then we just try to stuff these
yeah,
around. And then the other option would be just redraw the plan upon on this to the one that in your perspective would be like the best case to place all this stuff.
okay, yeah,
You can like
totally.
evaluate which one, like which to do better.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'll get a good idea of like the actual requirements that we'll need. So I'll make that happen.
Great.
I had a question about the manager's office. Is it where we're assuming there's gonna be like an on-site manager there at all times? Is that what there's the space provided?
Yes. So we just put it here just in case, like for the operation needs. But I'm not sure if like it's like a prerequisite for these attached housing or not, but we just put it just in case. If it's not necessary, of course we can take it away, since like it takes spaces and then there is a toilet inside, and then the less the better.
Yeah, I guess we can also add that list of things to be cut if we need more space for mechanical and stuff.
Yeah.
Certainly for townhomes, it would be, I think, rare to have a manager on site, but since this is more like halfway between that and an apartment complex, maybe.
So any more questions or like demands from other teams that any kind of drawings that you need urgently to do your tasks and stuff?
No, I think we're pretty good. The only question I have is like, I'm still a little confused on the plant prefab, that possibility of doing that and how that works. Do we still assemble all the materials and do like all the calculations and just give them our plan and they'll do it for us? Is that how that works? Or do they have specific products that we select?
Okay, I can take that. So I did reach back out to them. I haven't heard back yet. I think the way it would work is that they would basically advise us. They don't have like a custom system, but they do have like some documents with guidelines. So I think we have one or two in the drive. I think we roughly use those dimensions to organize around. So no, I don't think they'd be doing it for us, but they'd just be advising.
Okay,
Like
so
use
we're
this assembly,
basically
use
just
that
designing
assembly,
the
this
whole-
doesn't work, this does work, that kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay, sounds good.
One thing I was just thinking of is that maybe we could make an area like in the Miro doc. I just put a board kind of to the right of the plans that we could put like some of the proposed like construction assemblies on. So like kind of the details of like the different types of the project. I know that's like going to be an ongoing thing, but if we like kind of throw up some general details of like, you know, what the 2x6 wall assembly is going to be like, what this waterproof deck assembly is going to be like, what the top roof assembly is going to be like, just find some details of like existing designs, then that will give us something I think to go off of, and then the engineer team can say like this needs to be bigger or smaller or different, but they have kind of like a baseline.
One thing I just thought of, like when you mentioned the waterproof deck, I'm not positive about this, but just like thinking about it, I feel like the displacements between the stories will overall increase the price of the build, because you're going to have to be supporting buildings that have nothing beneath it, and you're paying for a deck that's waterproof for like almost no reason, except for like 10% of it is an actual roof. So like that's just another thing I thought of. So like if the budget becomes an issue, that might be one thing to look at. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think like that would be like the last solution for this, since of course we are making displays like the shifting and all this offset and all this stuff for like a more design aesthetical
Yeah, for sure.
goal for, yeah. Of course I understand your concerns.
Yeah, so like the walls not being aligned is like it would make the construction more expensive, but it's like it's possible. I have seen people who have done this, and I've designed similar things like this before, but the offset is not as big. I would say it was 6 inches, 6 feet was like the width of the deck. But we can definitely work this out. And
Yeah, sure.
if like the beam doesn't work, or like we need a really steep beam, then we will let you know. And like for example, if like at the big deck, the podium deck, if we need like more columns, well, I'll let you know too. And then I'm more concerned about the lateral system. I don't know like how in depth we need to get with the structural design. But like I think for the podium deck, we would end up with like 1.5 or 1.25 inch lightweight concrete. Just because it's for weatherproof and waterproof purpose. So
Well,
the deck
but of course, in terms of like choosing material for waterproofing, of course there are like tons of options to choose. So
Yeah.
it's your call for that.
Okay. And as for like wall assembly and floor and roof assembly, usually we get it from the architect. But like if you need suggestions on the waterproofing material or insulation material, we can provide that as well.
Yeah, just give everything you have found for us. If no matter it's useful or not, just give us, and then we will look through that. Thank you.
Okay.
And then yeah, sorry, one more thing that we actually have a little bit kind of question in mind is like, since we're not really sure if like the extent of this this roof, let's say this roof is entirely designed for placing all the solar panels or stuff. So if it's not enough, just give us like the area of like the number for us, and then we can try to spread it elsewhere. Because we're actually we thought of like, what if we making like a cover for this walkway, which like provides shelter for people like to get inside. Yeah, so just give us the numbers and then we'll see if that works.
Yeah, Jared went ahead and got some average, some numbers and calculations for some of the solar panel stuff. But now that we have the like more specific layout of the roof, we'll be able to get actual numbers and ideas of watt output and stuff. So
Yeah, what I put in a mural board is basically it's used to calculate whatever like wattage from the solar panels given like some parameters, right? And it's on the mural board. There are some parameters that, now that we have the drawing, we can, test some values. But in regards to like how much solar we're gonna need, that's gonna need to be put up against, the energy the buildings consume, which requires us to look into like,
Yeah.
the rooms and, all that stuff, so.
yeah,
knowing,
Jared,
like,
I
how
got some
much
I
is
got some numbers on that, or some websites that could help us out, that I put in our little shared working doc.
Okay, sure.
awesome.
The decathlon documents for attached housing specify like a target EUI of like 73 or 74, I believe. So maybe you could use that as like a baseline to plug in, and that would be like the max solar rate, because I imagine we're going to try and have a lower EUI than that.
Totally.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah. Go on.
one last question. And so just to make sure how the actual architecture team want to deal with the discontinuity problem between the podium and the roof. So they plan to use different materials and use like columns to strengthen the structure of the podium.
You mean places like
Yeah, like a second floor.
okay, somewhere like here?
Yes. So do they plan to use the same material, use different material?
I think using the same material will be better, because for that we can like reduce one variation for material choice, unless it's really costly or not cost effective or not efficient.
Yeah, I imagine that the material for roofing should be more expensive than a material for a podium because it's more delicate, I guess.
Maybe we could try and do a bit of a comparison between those two options. So like
Yeah.
a possible solution that has two different assemblies, and then one solution that has the same assembly just without insulation on the outside.
Yeah.
if there will be two assemblies, how do you compromise for the discontinuous
Yeah, then you'd be like
junction?
walking on one roof and then like transitioning onto a deck, which I think would kind of look weird.
So I think I get what you mean, but like of course that would be like finishing, like there must be something that is placed on top of the structural floor plate or like the decking or any kind of surfaces that we can see. So I don't think that would be an issue as long as we pick the same floor finishes to cover all these up. So as long as it's structurally stable and feasible, I don't think that would be a great issue.
Yeah, something that come to my mind are these labs that people will step like either inside or outside. So structurally speaking, they would be like the same. But what comes above it, it can change. I mean, it for sure in the external one you will have insulating coating. But yeah, I don't see why they would be different. So structurally speaking, people will step on them, so they will be the same.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by insulated coating?
So you can use whatever structural frame that you like, and above this, you will have like plenty of different options. For example, if you use concrete, you have a lot of different options to insulate this regarding water. So water will not compromise the structure, water will not
But
get
why,
into.
except for the overlapping part that's going to have to be a roof, it doesn't have to be waterproof. It could just be like it could be hardwood or something like a deck, right? But because of that, those two blocks that are actually a building on the first floor, you're going to have to waterproof the whole deck.
Yes.
You only need insulation on yeah, right where the arrow is, those two squares. There's no need for insulation anywhere else, right?
Yeah, but what if water like make a way into this lab and then go inside and reach the other thing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like this is kind of complicated. It's like kind of constraining a lot of your options, I feel like.
The way I see it now, probably you have to insulate everything. And that's all good. That's not a
You
huge
mean
concern.
insulate the whole podium, the whole deck?
Yep.
Interesting.
Seems overkill.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. Like what I've worked through for the waterproofing stuff between interior and exterior, I don't think there would be like a huge difference, no matter the cost or the thicknesses or like the complexity of these systems, because there were some of the waterproofing systems I worked through are basically like paintings and like sprays, which takes only a few millimeters on top of the surface. So yeah, so I don't think that would be like a really problematic issue.
Yeah, it's not. What is problematic is water. You can't let water in anywhere. So 75% of all problems in buildings are originated by water. So we want to insulate everything.
Yeah. As long as like the exterior exposed areas are like well protected, like having an extra layer of protection, I think that would be sufficient.
Sorry, Kaiji, you're saying. When you were gonna say something, I said something.
No,
so I'm sorry.
I agree with you. Water is like the major problem. Or if you don't do your waterproofing correctly, you end up with like a lot of maintenance cost later on.
Yeah.
So it's better to do it
That would
right.
also like have to put a lot of effort in like the really detailed scale, zoom in scale kind of drawings, but I'm not really sure if we really have to get that deep for this competition. But
That's my
anyway,
question too. Like, we don't want to get too in depth with these things. And we don't know by looking at the rules and requirements, like what they want, like how well do we need to present our design to, to get a good score.
I think like based on the other presentations, just going to the assembly level is enough. Like, I don't know if we have to do the joints between like every different
yeah, I
assembly
think
or
that
things
would
like
be like way too much for this competition. But
But
anyway,
if we-
of course, like
we-
it is good. It is a really good intention. Like, we really pay attention of all these stuff as this like prerequisite for like all kinds of construction. So
I think it's enough to know the assembly type and materials, the quantity of the assembly used, and then that can drive all the calculations for like carbon and life cycle and things like that.
yeah.
And also one more question.
Mhm.
Do we need to draw a section? Like, do you need to
So do you need any specific sections for this building? Of course, like we can draw it, but
I'm just wondering if it's required for this competition.
It's not required, but we need detailed drawing.
So
And I'm just curious where you're gonna cut your building. Is it the short direction or the long direction?
yeah, if we really need to make cuts, I think probably like making cuts through the skylights and the staircases, because like cutting through staircases would be showing like the most dynamic part of the building. Otherwise, that would be like lines all over the straight lines and horizontal lines all over the drawings.
I think that could be good for the presentation.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
anyways, if you need those for your calculation or like testings or anything, just tell us and then we just look at it.
Yeah, the first one seems really important. The horizontal one that cuts 3 small buildings. Yeah. This is really important, I think.
Okay. Yeah, for sure we can produce that. Not a demanding one.
Also, the other one shows a podium, so I guess it's kind of important too.
Okay. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, definitely. One
we
each.
do that.
One each at least. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. So stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hayden, for the drawings and
Yeah.
explanations.
For sure. No problem.
Thank you.
Just tell us if you need any more drawings needed for your working and stuff. We'll try to make things happen.
Cool. Are there any other topics people have or info they need? They have an idea of what they're doing for the week, roughly?
Yeah, I can go ahead and share my screen, just talk about, and me and Jared could talk about a couple of the things that we were working on. I'll try and go quick because, is there any way that I could share my screen?
Should be good.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so what we kind of did is what we just took the PM's team just like list of action items and kind of split them up into stuff that we could sort of treat as deliverables. Jared, if you want to start with the things that you kind of tackled, then I'll jump in a bit later.
Yeah, we'll go through this real quick because we're still in the process of working on it, and we'll be transferring the relevant info to the Miro board so that it will be, you know, in that centralized location. But you know, here, you know, this kind of going into the solar PV, you know, looking up resources for that and some of the parameters. I mentioned this before, so I don't need to belabor the point. You know, so we're still working on it, as well as there is software provided for getting the HERS score. So, you know, measuring, you know, the energy and what have you, that's provided from Solar Decathlon. So we'll be doing further, you know, using that software and figuring out what parameters we need. And if we need any, we will get those to you. So that's pretty much the PV and the HERS scores. You want to pick up the grid resilience and stuff you did still?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, so the HERS score, this is kind of everything up here to just like big takeaways. Like these are numbers that we just kind of had to crunch out. Shouldn't be too difficult. Looking at grid resiliency, PM team said that just calculating the average usage and possible load strain on the electrical system. So we were just kind of looking into data that was kind of taking some of the average duct curve loads and just typical loads for all different types of residential buildings in Southern California. Some of that is include like there's single family detached housing. There's other different types of attached housing stuff that I was looking at, as well as getting an idea of the kind of appliance loads that we might be looking at focusing a bit more on a smaller scale. Overall, what we're thinking about is we want to get an overall, just kind of a high level understanding of average, I guess, load bearing on the grid. And then that's going to be based on the number of occupants and just the number of units, and then taking those numbers and comparing them to what we can get with solar to consider how much we might want to be, you know, relying on the grid to power this place. I imagine that just with the amount of area that we have for solar panels, you know, naturally you're going to have to be pulling a lot from the grid. But what we want to do is have some sort of battery storage technology that we're interworking with the solar panels to combat times when there's a higher demand for electricity. I think that's going to be the most important aspect of the solar panels themselves. It's not so much to power the whole place the whole time, but to take care of the building and keep the rates as low as possible during the peak hours, which is yeah.
Also, for example, in different seasons, we will have different efficiencies. So yeah, we will definitely rely on the grid. Normally it's like that.
Right. No, I know that's, I was definitely just making that apparent to everyone else. Like if that was your notion that like solar panels like power the home all the time for forever, like that, it's not realistic. It's just you can't get enough power for that. But I think that it'll be important, and yeah, especially when you're talking about like, you know, in those different seasons where we're not getting as much sun, we can expect just a lower output from the solar panels. Let's see. Going through this, so yeah, so the central location for the technical systems, I think that's going to play in with both the maybe some of the battery technology that we want to use, just like the central hub for distributing our electrical systems, and then also we're going to want to be thinking about water or hot water storage or the way that we're doing that, and all of these kind of systems are going to probably be in the same location. So that's kind of what I was talking about with you. What I mentioned a little bit earlier, Hayden, is just like we'll try and get an idea of the actual sizing requirements for this equipment, and then get back to everyone on what what that you know, if we're gonna have to make any adjustments on the plans. Got to do some more research on this battery storage technology, just because I'm not too familiar with it. And then looking at the lighting plans. Now that we have the actual dimensions of these rooms, what is pretty common for construction plans is there'll be these lighting sort of like diagrams that show the actual radiance of each of these lights to be using. I'm not sure if there's a software for that, but it could be pretty cool to use. It's just kind of a numbering system that's like how much light is in each little unit of a certain room. And that will help us sort of plan out like the actual, like how many lights and where are we gonna actually want to put those.
I know there's
Um,
a daylighting simulation software for Rhino called Climate Studio that we looked into. So I think
Okay.
that's mostly for like looking at daylight, but I can check and see if it does artificial lighting too.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing that will facilitate this is there are standards that you have to have a minimum for a certain area. So you don't need to actually calculate everything. So
Okay.
but yeah, for a bedroom, you need like this. If the area is, you know, it's a function of the area. Sometimes in the usage of the specific room.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, we'll definitely look into the standards for that. Okay, so I'll note that. Cool. And then thinking about just like the electrical requirement, we were putting some of the actual like conduit to put throughout the building, the power, you know, your plug loads and all the appliances that are running through. Adriana, if you think that this is something feasible, like I'm sure you're familiar with single line diagrams, and it's just like kind of the like describes the progression of like electrical distribution starting from the like pulling power from the city. If that's something that we could kind of do to get a more accurate layout, that's going to play into where we actually put some of these plug loads and, you know, putting the appliances and stuff. I'm not sure if we need to go in depth as that with our for this competition, but just something that I kind of thought of for future. I'm not sure.
I think for the purposes that are on the top of my head, probably the power is more important than actually
location, like
designing.
actually putting them places.
Yeah, for example, the layout, I think it would be important, but I don't think we need to actually calculate, for example, the diameter of, you know what I mean, and putting like dividing the circuits for every.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, still, I think it's probably more important to just get like an average output per unit and something like that, and actually thinking about like how many plug loads are we gonna want to have in a room, like a bedroom, and maybe not get as like specific about where those things are going. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So then looking at one thing that I want to propose for the solar panels is there's kind of two ways to orient solar panels and take the DC electricity that they actually produce and bring them to like AC power that can actually be used by a lot of these appliances. There was a mention of researching into DC wiring. I just don't think that we have the appliance, like the appliance technology. A lot of things that we use are run on AC current. So we are going to have to use some sort of inverter with these systems. Most commonly, solar panels are connected in a series of strings, and there's one central inverter. So it's all these solar panels are, I mean, if you guys are familiar with like just electrical circuits, like they're all kind of wired together in series. And then that power is amplified and then all converted together to be run to the house. What I was kind of proposing is there's another way where you have microinverters. So it's sort of what I was alluding to last week with mini split heat pumps and having a central system that sort of that operates independently to try and just increase the efficiency. Microinverters are, as opposed to being connected together in series, they're connected in parallel, and each solar panel unit has its own microinverter that instead allows I would say it's more reliable, just because in a crisis, if you were to have one solar panel that's defective in that that series sort of string or configuration, it's going to reduce the overall output of your solar panel, just your solar panel array. Because you're working on a smaller scale, these are just more efficient in general. I put this this link here that kind of talks about microinverters versus having a central inverter. Yeah, so I don't think that it doesn't really necessarily do anything to anyone else's designs. It's just the different way to hypothetically build out the scenario. But we could expect some like gains in efficiency that might play into calculations later. Yeah, I'm not too familiar about all of the different 3D modeling softwares, but I am starting to learn Revit just because I have to for my job, and I don't know if that's something that like I should make more of a priority for me now, so that like I can like work in it to contribute to the architecture team, like in the technical aspect side. But if that is something that you guys want me to do, like I'm happy to. I have to learn it anyways. So like if you want me to go faster with it, I'm willing to. I'm happy to, you know. So I think that's all we had. A lot of this stuff is just going to be things that we'll kind of tackle throughout this next week or week and a half to give everyone some numbers and stuff. But yeah, that's what we worked on.
Yeah, and also that last point that was talking about the water system, this is something that we're gonna work out. So amongst ourselves to give you guys recommendations as it pertains to the actual layout and design. So y'all don't need to stress out about it now, but you know, in terms of like optimizing the placement of like our plumbing walls, for instance, you know, that's something that we can look into to see like to not have like a bunch of like plumbing walls just kind of like spread out, but if they can be oriented to, you know, some of them can like share that wall. You know, we'll look at that amongst ourselves and we can provide recommendations for y'all to input. So again, y'all don't have to stress about it now, but in future iterations of the design and layout, those can be implemented.
Thanks, Jared. I think we will also need to work with you in the future, just to see like where your pipe is like where your plumbing walls are gonna be, and then if your pipes are gonna be cutting through our beams and joists, because we don't want to like if there's like a certain direction you want to run your pipes at, then we can align our joists in that direction. So just to make your life easier, not having to cut through joists and beams.
Yeah, and that would also play into what Sterling mentioned with the mini split heat pump system. Like if those are going to be kind of oriented to where they go along like parallel to like ceiling joists, for instance, that could be something that if it's necessary for the purposes of a project, we can definitely, you know, coordinate with y'all for that, as well as with the plumbing walls and everything. So I will make a note of that. Next.
Just a comment here. This is interesting. I worked before PhD as a map designer, mostly with plumbing, and rarely we will get together like the architecture, the structural engineer, and the map engineers. So this is pretty much a conversation that we would have, and mostly the ones that actually put the rules on the table or the architectures. So it's a constant fight between engineers and the architecture team. It's interesting. About where to go with the plumbings, I saw in the hidden design some shafts. Do you guys call those spaces like behind a bedroom a shaft?
Like a light well,
Sorry?
like a light well, I think we call it. What do we call hidden?
Yeah, just make sure that Jared saw them, because if you for like vertical pipes, you wanna use those.
Yeah, for sure. Like I know it may take like some spaces for like the light well. So just give us the dimension and then change, like if we have to shrink the windows and then do the adjustment as well. Yeah, just tell us.
Okay, thanks guys. Light well. In Portuguese we call it shafts, which is an English word. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is a shaft, but I guess light well is more specific because it's a shaft to bring in light down to the lower stories.
Yeah, yeah.
I just add that I think I saw in your notes, Sterling, that you were interested in doing like DC for car, like electric car charging. I think that's still like a cool idea that's on the table. I could definitely see like, 3 of these slots or maybe even 6 of these slots being like wired up for electric charging. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I actually I didn't put that, but someone else did, and it does still sound like a good idea, but I'm not gonna take credit for it.
Hayden, do you have any opinion on Revit? I mean, I think we're not going that direction, but
I mean, like, of course, like the most ideal condition would be like doing the same Revit model, but like, it really takes time, like to build up the model from scratch, and then I don't think that would be like effective for this project. So yeah, I think we would just stick with like AutoCAD 2D drawings. And yeah, just tell us if you need any kind of like specific areas of drawings and dimensions.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, but of course it's good for you to learn Revit because like Revit is the trend.
Yeah, I've gotta learn it for my job like this summer, or at least be proficient at it. So
Yeah.
gotta start sometime, I figure.
if anyone ever does need to open up the Rhino model, it is like a free software. So you can just download it, or sorry, it's a try. You can get a trial for like 6 months. You can just download it, and then it's pretty easy to like go in. You kind of just navigate it around by panning and orbiting like most 3D programs, and you can just take dimensions from there. You obviously wouldn't need to do the actual modeling. Like emergency if you needed something. Cool. Is there anything else? Okay. So just a really quick recap on like the action items. We'd like to kind of start putting some of the prototyping assemblies on the right-hand side. Architecture would like to maybe propose some of the base assemblies. We would like to, the engineering team is going to continue to research the solar and other things. I think Adriano is going to be working on the LCA, and architecture is also just going to be continuing to do some kind of more details. Does that sound good to everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay. I'll keep you guys updated about the design partners, and I'll show these plans to Todd and see what he says.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a long meeting. Appreciate your time, guys. Catch you next week.